Let's talk about wax. Let's talk about paraffin wax versus soy wax. Let's settle this debate. Because I've recently gone over to using a refined mineral wax, aka paraffin wax, mixed with vegetable triglycerides and soy wax. And I like it. It works for me and it's perfect for my candles. But there is such a big debate online and a lot of people that are promoting soy wax and vegetable waxes with the eco-friendly benefits and the non-toxic blah, blah, blah. Are they actually any better for you? Is there any science behind the soy wax being beneficial? Let's get into it. Let's look at some mother flipping facts. But before I do that, let's talk about why I moved over from soy wax to paraffin wax, because it was a bit of a big jump. And for me, I've been selling soy wax candles the whole time. Now I call it a soy wax blend because that is what it is. It's maybe a bit sneaky because it does give the connotations that it's entirely soy wax, but you can legally call it a soy wax blend as long as there's like, I can't remember what the percentage are, at least 25% soy wax in there. Mine are more like 60% paraffin wax with about 40% soy wax in, and it just works perfectly for me. But that's beside the point. Why did I change? So we're gonna have to go back in time a little bit here to when I was struggling to make candles, which hasn't always been the case. I've made some very good candles, but there were certain scents I wanted to get done, and I wanted to get really good fragrance oil from them, and really good like scent throw from the fragrance oils, and I just couldn't do it. And I thought it was my processes. I thought I just couldn't make a good candle. I'd spend hours scouring the internet and looking at videos and comparing waxes and trying different things, and some fragrance oils I just couldn't get to work. So I thought it was me. Turns out, long story short, there are some fragrance oils which are just rubbish and they don't work in any kind of wax. But at that point, it got me thinking, I'm going to buy some candles from Amazon and I'm going to test them. I'm going to see if they're any better than my candles. And lo and behold, they're not. I was in some kind of pursuit of greatness and perfection, which simply didn't exist. Candles are just candles. You get some good ones, you get some bad ones. And the ones I make are quite good. Even the ones in the past were quite good. It's just certain fragrance oils didn't work. Then I came across one candle which had a really good scent throw. It could have just been the fragrance oil, but it got me thinking about the wax, because the wax was very hard. Normally soy wax is very soft. So I tried to do some reverse engineering and figure out what the wax was. Now, a mixture of intelligence and just sheer dumb luck, I think I worked out what the wax was, and that turned out to be a highly refined mineral wax. And then I bought a few different ones and did some testing. I think I managed to find the exact same wax. So that's what I use now. It's got a very good scent throw, takes up to 10% fragrance load, like fragrance oil. That's how much you can put in it before it starts to seep out and cause issues. And this one lasts for a really long time. So it is almost equal in terms of longevity compared to the SCX wax I was using before, which is a coconut soy wax. Whereas I think a lot of people say paraffin wax burns quite quickly and doesn't last as long. That's not necessarily true. It depends on the blend, and it depends your wick and how you've made the whole candle. There's a lot of variables in terms of candle making, as I'm sure everyone is aware. So many variables, it can drive you insane. So essentially that's why I've moved over to paraffin wax. It's a paraffin wax soy blend, and I do them in tins now, whereas before I was doing them in jars, and I was on the quest for perfect glass adhesion all the time to make sure they're really pretty. And I've scrapped all of that because it was driving me insane, and I couldn't scale my business because I was being held back by all these weird beliefs I had from maybe the candle community, maybe me trying to pursue some kind of candle greatness. And now I just do lovely tins with excellent scent throw, and just, they're good candles. They burn well, they perform well. It's a good product. Maybe it's not perfect, but I don't think it's ever going to be perfect. Anyway, that's the long story short, and that's why I moved to paraffin wax. So let's now compare the waxes. Let's have a look at each wax and just go back to the basics and see exactly what they do. So I'm just going to bring up some things on my screen now, and we will go through them. Soy wax. So I think when we all start candle making, we end up doing soy wax because it's the most popular. It's got those buzzwords to it. People love buying it. It's got those eco-friendly connotations. It's all of that stuff. It's very popular. So let's just dive into soy wax. A lot of you candle makers probably already know what it is and how it works, but this is some information I've taken from Lone Star Candle Company. It's an American website, but it's got a lot of information on there. So this isn't my own research. It's something I've borrowed. So soy waxes are generally made from soybean oil and can contain non-soy materials. The soybean oil is separated from the beans by using a mechanical press or by using a solvent to extract the oil. So, first thing, solvent with soybeans. So I think they soak the husks in a solvent to like remove the beans from it. So that in itself isn't necessarily eco-friendly. The term and word solvent is quite a potent sort of chemical to use. So the first thing in the process, maybe not as eco-friendly as people make it out to be. The primary step in making soy wax is a process called hydrogenation. That word, I'm going to butcher a lot of words in this because, yeah, I'm just gonna. Basically, the soybean oil is treated with hydrogen solution that causes the oil to solidify and create wax. Every manufacturer has a different process, and most of them keep their recipes very secretive, but the process starts out the same for all of them. Soy wax is a natural product that has these general properties. Non-toxic, meaning the soy wax is not poisonous, made of either 100% soybean oil or a combination of other non-soy materials, animal products or vegetable products. Clean burning fuel source, meaning soy wax meets several requirements under federal regulations that classify it as clean burning. It's also colorless, meaning the wax itself does not contain any color and typically appears opaque. So on the face of it, it sounds healthy, it looks healthy, soybean, soy wax, it all comes from the ground. The only thing that isn't so eco-friendly and maybe slightly controversial is soaking in a solvent, which is probably something a lot of people aren't aware of. It's only something I sort of learned recently when I was doing more research into paraffin wax and just finding out, is it any better for you? Am I going to start like killing off families and dogs and things with my soy wax, with my paraffin candles before I sort of dived into it? Let's have a look at paraffin wax now and see if that is garbage. Is it toxic? Is it going to kill a load of guinea pigs? So this is something I've also taken from Lone Star Candle Company. So paraffin wax. Paraffin waxes are actually petroleum based and are created using crude oil, also known as fossil fuel, which is extracted from the earth. On a molecular level, crude oil is a mixture of hydrocarbons that were created from the decomposition of plants and animals that lived underwater many years ago. Dinosaurs. Once extracted crude oil is sent to refineries where it is then turned into finished products like lubricating oil. It is from the lube oil, refining process that paraffin wax is created. Paraffin wax is a natural product and has these general properties. So I think when people are saying it's not natural, they lie. It is natural. It comes from the ground. Non-toxic, meaning that paraffin wax is not poisonous. Non-reactive, meaning that during certain lab tests, the wax did not respond or react to certain stimuli. Excellent water barrier. Paraffin wax is very good at repelling water and other liquids. It's a clean fuel source, meaning paraffin wax meets several requirements under federal regulations that classify it as clean burning. It is also colorless, just like the soy wax, meaning the wax itself does not contain any color and typically appears semi-translucent. So, based on those facts, paraffin wax is all right. It is theoretically a natural product. It doesn't have any toxins or anything like that. I think, therefore, we're good to go. There is very little in it between paraffin wax and soy wax. But we can get a little bit more scientific. We can look at some studies and compare these things. But before I get into that, let's just quickly talk about, I think there's sometimes subjectively people can get headaches and maybe have reactions to soy wax. Now, there's not much science behind this. It's anecdotal. I think some people can just be more sensitive to things than others. So I think for the most part, the candles I make aren't going to affect anyone, but it could affect someone. I think it's a bit like the food scene where MSG has such a bad rap and it's purported to cause cancer and headaches, but it's simply not true and it's just a salt. It is, however, in my own subjective experience, it does make me feel awful in the morning when I've had a big Chinese. I think the mixture of salt, sugar, and just the sheer gluttony, because it is so tasty that MSG has that kind of umami taste that just makes me want to eat more, that I just eat so much, I overindulge, and I wake up and I'm dehydrated and I feel a bit crap. It's not the fault of the MSG, it's the fault due to my own gluttony. So it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with MSG. That's kind of my weird analogy based on paraffin wax from my chefing brain. There's also the impact of fragrance oil. Generally, this is where a lot of the issues can arise. I think certain fragrance oils can cause headaches. They can cause allergic reactions. There's a mixed bag with fragrance oils and essential oils. But that's a video for another day. The great debate between fragrance oils, essential oils, and all sorts. But let's go back to the wax debacle. It's easy to find websites claiming that paraffin wax is toxic and causes cancer. Often it's companies that are promoting vegetable waxes and other things like that. There's really not that much proof or any references to it. There's actually been a scientific study into candle emission. So let's get into that. Let's look at some science. So I'm going to basically cut this whole study down to the conclusions because there's a lot in it and a lot of stuff that is way over my head. But we'll get to the conclusion and that will just explain exactly where we stand with paraffin wax, soy wax, and all of that. They compare a lot of different waxes. There is a link to the study down on the bottom of the video, so if you do want to have a little look at it and read. So I'm just going to read through the conclusion at the end. I'm also probably going to butcher some of these words as well due to just not being able to speak. So let's go. Conclusions. As expected, a multitude of gaseous and particulate emissions were detected during the burning of the tested candles. These were typical combustion products as well as evaporated constituents of fragrance mixtures. In the initial phase, which lasts from 30 to 60 minutes, significantly increased concentrations of ultrafine particles can be observed. In contrast, the concentrations of carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and formaldehyde, that one, were initially not increased. The formation of NO2 is a characteristic of combustion chemistry in the air and cannot be avoided. During the safety assessment of the emissions, it was determined that for the vast majority of measured parameters for which toxology justified indoor air guide values are available, the corresponding short-term and long-term concentrations for indoor air and are safely met, and in many cases were well below established safety levels. There's a load of other bits I'm not going to read. So basically, everything is well below the safety thresholds for all of the waxes: paraffin wax, soy wax, beeswax, palm wax. They're all well below these safety measures. The result of the 24 experiments provide insights into burning behavior of various combinations of fuel and fragrance. For unscented candles, it can be determined that fuels, palm, paraffin, soy, stearin behave very similar in terms of emissions. No individual wax was shown to have consistently better emission profiles than others. This group also forms a cluster in the statistical analysis. Fundamentally, it can be stated without fragrance additives produce lower emissions combustion by products and candles with fragrance. So essentially, unscented candles are much safer. There's much less toxins. This is where the whole thing with fragrance oils can become a bit of an issue. Different fragrance oils can increase. Maybe different burning profiles are going to burn differently, adding different fuels into that sort of fuel combustion vehicle. So unscented candles, there really isn't much difference between it. So there's considerably more complex combustion chemistry than fuels. Consequently, scented candles can generate more VOCs than unscented candles. The individual VOCs measured during the course of this study, like benzyl limonene, I think those are very common in a lot of candles, are mostly fragrance ingredients that evaporate from the molten wax pool of the burning candle. Fragrance molecules that are drawn up into the wick and exposed into the flame are decomposed by the combustion process, which leads to the production of carbon dioxide, as well as the combustion of byproducts and particles. So that's when you get things like soot and all those other bits. So there's not a lot in it. All of these candles have very similar characteristics and burning profiles. None of them are more toxic than each other. They're all about the same. None of them have any more health benefits. None of them provide any of the myriad of things you see online. They're all equal. So when you see people talking about soy wax being better for you than other candles, then it's simply not true based on science and facts. I'm sure there's loads more scientific studies based on it. That's just one of the ones I've found. So there we have it. There's really not much to it. I think it's entirely down to preference and what you want to do. There's a lot of buzzwords and sales points attached to soy wax and vegetable waxes. I think it just appeals to a certain demographic of people. So if that's what you want to go down, test some soy waxes, test some paraffin waxes, test some beeswaxes, have a go at all of them and see what you like, see what works for you. See from your testing whether you get a better scent throw, you get better glass adhesion. All of these things you can test and see what you like. Whether you want to do a soy wax, a vegetable wax, or something like that, then go for it. And I think whether it's my own cynical approach to life, there's really nothing that's that eco-friendly these days. Everything's shipped on massive cargo containers that emit so many emissions. There's industrial processing, like we talked about. They use solvent to remove the husks and get the beans out for the soy wax. There's exploitation. There's all sorts of crap behind the scenes that we're probably not aware of. So there we are. The real winners are the conglomerates and the big companies. And for me, whether or not this is the right approach, but I think if you can't beat them, join them. I want my own slice of pie. I want my own freedom. I want to forge my own path, my own destiny. And that's it. I think I've got to get involved in it. There's no way about it. That's part of the reason why I'm on Amazon. It's such a massive platform. It allows me to grow massively. Without it, I wouldn't have the reach or the scope to be able to provide that many candles to that many people and ship them out so quickly. I don't necessarily agree with the company ethics and how things are done, but for me, in my situation now, there's just no other way around it. I can't think of a better way to do it whilst I'm working full time. So it just works and it benefits me massively. Does that make me a bad person? I don't think it does. The conglomerates are the ones that can really change the world. But before I get into all this kind of ethical stuff, then I digress. So really, you have to pick your own battles. Self-preservation is key, I think. Pick the battles you think are going to benefit you and just make your own choices, really. That's all there is to it. There's nothing in it in terms of waxes. They're all about the same. They all emit the same amount of dust particles, soot, toxins. They are all equal. There's absolutely nothing in it. And that's about it for this video. So if you found it interesting, smash the like button. I really appreciate that. Leave a comment down below if you have found it interesting or if you disagree or there's something you want to talk about. Leave a comment below. I reply to all of them. I will give you a heart and a thumbs up, even if you say mean things about me. So, and also subscribe to the channel. It boosts my ego. It makes me feel better. Selfless plugs. I've got loads of cool ideas in terms of stuff coming up. Time permitting, I want to go back to wax testing. I want to do fragrance oil discussions. I want to be in the trenches with the candle testing and the waxes and doing stuff and just trying to create as much value and share everything along my little journey in terms of my little business and just doing stuff. When I first started out making candles, I never thought I'd get this far into it. It was just a quick money-making scheme. But here I am with a weird obsession and hobby about candle making. But that's how life goes. So yeah. Peace out. See you in the next one. Bye.